The Silk Road, a sprawling network of trade routes that connected the East and West for centuries, is often celebrated for its role in the exchange of goods, ideas, and cultures. Yet, beneath the surface of this historical marvel lies a deeply human story, one of intimacy. Intimacy on the Silk Road was not confined to romantic relationships or physical closeness. It was a rich and multifaceted experience shaped by shared journeys, cultural exchange, and the forging of bonds across vast distances and diverse peoples. To understand intimacy on the Silk Road is to explore the ways in which people connected, relied on one another, and found meaning in their interactions, even in the face of immense challenges. At its core, intimacy on the Silk Road was about survival and mutual dependence. The journey along these ancient routes was fraught with danger, bandits, harsh climates, and the ever-present threat of illness or injury. Travelers, whether merchants, pilgrims, or adventurers, had no choice but to rely on one another for safety and support. This necessity bred a unique form of closeness, one that transcended language, culture, and religion. Caravans, for example, were not just groups of people traveling together. They were microcosms of trust and cooperation. Merchants, guides, and laborers worked in unison, sharing resources, knowledge, and even emotional burdens. The intimacy that emerged from these relationships was not born of choice but of circumstance, yet it was no less profound. In the vast emptiness of the desert or the towering heights of mountain passes, people found solace in one another's presence, creating bonds that often lasted a lifetime. Cultural exchange was another cornerstone of intimacy on the Silk Road. As people moved across continents, they brought with them not only goods but also their traditions, beliefs, and stories. This exchange was not a one-way street. It was a dynamic interplay that enriched the lives of everyone involved. Buddhist monks traveling from India to China, for instance, carried sacred texts and teachings, which they shared with local communities. These interactions were deeply personal, as monks and their hosts engaged in conversations about spirituality, morality, and the meaning of life. Similarly, Muslim traders who settled in cities like Xi'an or Kashgar formed close relationships with their neighbors, blending their own customs with local traditions. These connections were not superficial. They were rooted in a genuine curiosity and respect for one another's ways of life. The Silk Road became a space where people could learn from one another, finding common ground in their shared. The caravanserais, the bustling inns that dotted the Silk Road, were hubs of human connection. These were places where travelers from all walks of life, merchants, pilgrims, scholars, and adventurers came together to rest, eat, and share stories. The caravanserai was more than just a place to sleep. It was a space where strangers became companions. Around the warmth of a fire, people exchanged tales of their homelands, their struggles, and their dreams. These moments of storytelling were intimate in their own right, as they allowed individuals to reveal parts of themselves that might otherwise remain hidden. The caravanserai was a microcosm of the Silk Road itself, a place where differences were set aside and connections were forged through shared experiences. Trade, the lifeblood of the Silk Road, also fostered intimacy in unexpected ways. While the exchange of goods was the primary purpose of these routes, the act of trading required a degree of trust and mutual understanding. Merchants had to navigate complex negotiations, often conducted through interpreters or gestures. Over time, these interactions could evolve into genuine friendships. Traders came to rely on one another for fair deals, honest advice, and even emotional support. The relationships between merchants and their clients were not merely transactional. They were built on a foundation of respect and reciprocity. In a world where trust was hard to come by, these bonds were invaluable. They were a testament to the power of human connection, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. Love and romance, though less documented, were also part of the Silk Road's intimate tapestry. The movement of people across vast distances created opportunities for cross-cultural relationships, as individuals from different regions met and formed connections. These relationships were often shaped by the unique circumstances of life on the Silk Road, where isolation and uncertainty could heighten emotions and deepen bonds. One notable example is the story of Princess Wenqing, a Chinese princess who married the Tibetan king Songtsen Gampo in the 7th century. Her journey to Tibet was not only a political alliance but also a cultural exchange, as she brought with her Chinese customs, art, and Buddhism. While the marriage was arranged, it is said that the couple developed a genuine affection for one another, symbolizing the potential for love to bridge cultural divides. Similarly, the Silk Road was a place where people could escape the constraints of their societies and explore new possibilities. For some, this meant pursuing relationships that would have been forbidden in their homelands. The anonymity and diversity of the Silk Road allowed individuals to redefine themselves and their connections, creating spaces for love and intimacy that transcended traditional boundaries. Spiritual intimacy was another profound aspect of life on the Silk Road. Pilgrims of various faiths, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, and others, journeyed along these routes to visit sacred sites, seek enlightenment, or spread their beliefs. These journeys often involved acts of devotion and communal worship, which fostered a sense of unity and shared purpose. Buddhist pilgrims traveling to India or Central Asia, for example, would often form close-knit groups, supporting one another through the physical and spiritual challenges of their journey. These groups created a sense of belonging and mutual care as pilgrims shared their hopes, fears, and insights. Similarly, Muslim traders who gathered in mosques along the Silk Road found solace and connection in their shared faith, even as they adapted to local customs and traditions. The Silk Road also facilitated the spread of religious ideas, leading to a blending of beliefs and practices. This syncretism created opportunities for spiritual intimacy, as people from different faiths found common ground in their search for meaning and transcendence. The exchange of religious texts, rituals, and art allowed individuals to connect on a deeper level, fostering a sense of shared humanity. The legacy of intimacy on the Silk Road is a testament to the power of human connection. The bonds formed between travelers, merchants, and local communities laid the foundation for a world that was interconnected long before the advent of modern globalization. The Silk Road reminds us that intimacy is not confined to personal relationships. It is also found in the shared experiences, mutual respect, and cultural exchange that bring people together. In today's world, where divisions often seem insurmountable, the lessons of the Silk Road are more relevant than ever. They remind us that, despite our differences, we are all part of a shared human story, one that is enriched by the connections we forge with one another. In the end, intimacy on the Silk Road was about more than just survival or trade. It was about the ways in which people found meaning and connection in a vast and often unforgiving world. It was about the stories shared around a fire, the trust built through years of trade, and the love that blossomed across cultural divides. It was about the spiritual bonds that united pilgrims of different faiths and the friendships that transcended language and geography. The Silk Road was not just a route for goods. It was a pathway for the human heart, a reminder that, even in the most challenging of circumstances, we are never truly alone.